Good evening from Johannesburg. My name is Precious Banda Doratamana, the national convener of the Young Women's Desk of the ANC Women's League. Welcome to Let's Have It Out. ANCWYL gives different newsmakers a chance to host this program, interview people with whom they disagree, and to give you a chance to get involved in the conversation, unfiltered, accountable, and accessible. And it starts now. South African women and children have been dying in the hands of men, and they live in fear because of the extreme high levels of gender-based violence. The Young Women's Desk of the ANC Women's League has been calling on our nation, the government, community stakeholders, churches to take a stance against gender-based violence. This means it's no longer business as usual. We're expecting all Chapter 9 institutions to take a very decisive, clear stance also in fighting gender-based violence. And it means a lot also that the Gender Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality, plays its role in maximizing on their mandate to play a key role in advocating for gender equality and to bring an end to gender-based violence since the alarming rise of gender-based violence. Tonight, we are going to know what the Commission of Gender Equality has done differently since this struggle against gender-based violence has been taking place. In studio with me, I have the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Mam Lula Manari. How are you? Welcome to Let's Have It Out, and please greet our viewers.
Good night to our viewers. Hello to you, Precious.
But first, let's show you how you can participate in the conversation.
Tweet us at ENCA using the hashtag LHIO. Call us on 011-759-6340 or send us a WhatsApp or WhatsApp video on 082-884-6370. And make sure those videos are no longer than 30 seconds, please.
Comrade Lulam, the women, disadvantaged women of our country, the women in the taxi ranks, the women miners who work under very difficult conditions, the women in the farms who are not even allowed to go and vote because they have to choose between not making income for that day or to exercise their constitutional right. The disadvantaged of our women that don't have access to information. The ones that are not like you and me who have access to information and they've got proximity to all these institutions that are around. What has the Gender Commission been doing to prioritize such women of our country to ensure that as we push for transformation, they are not left behind?
I think one of the things that we were established for was to actually embrace gender equality and address issues of sexism, but we also promote gender equality. We are also a complaints, we have complaints line. We have free lawyers on site that are able to support all women and men who experience gender violence. We are able to access social workers and children's courts. We also do research. Wherever we find anonymous calls that we must go to a particular place, there's something that is happening, we also take those calls and go and investigate.
You know, I'm asking you this question because, in fact, the poorer our women are, the more they are subjected to violence, and the more that all these intersectional conditions around them become worse and perpetuate and actually reproduce gender-based violence and oppression. I want us to speak about also the health sector and how violence in the sector is. Women today are still using DEPO. We did the research as the Young Women's Desk where we visited about a number of clinics around here in Gauteng. There was a shortage of family planning pills. Women are still put on DEPO that has got a historical, background. It was used by the apartheid regime to control birth of blacks. A medication, an injection that has got a legacy. Those are the conditions of the health system today. What is the Gender Commission saying about that? What has the Gender Commission done? Because part of the things that you need to do is also research. Have you researched to understand why we are still using depot injection today? Have you researched to understand why we have alarming growth of those signs in terms of abortion? What is wrong with our own institutions that must give us safe abortions?
What is wrong with our institution is, one, they don't respect the Constitution. So from health workers, from the budget of the country, from our institutions of health, and also just how they treat women and what ailments that women have and what needs to be addressed in terms of women's bodies. One of the things that we have found out is also that they also give, contraceptions to people with living with disabilities. They plaster them. They do not give them the consent. They just give them these pills that they give and the plaster. So our health system really needs to jack up and respond to women's health, but most importantly, to the women's right to their reproductive rights, but also not to be subjected to dangerous and scientifically deficient systems.
So what has the Gender Commission been doing on the question? We ask questions about the issue of health, the reproductive rights of women, the failure in promoting reproductive health, knowing that part of what the Gender Commission is also research in this regard. Have you done any research? What are your findings? We link it up when you respond to the question of women in sports. Women in sport are underpaid compared to their male counterparts. Today there's outrage. The country is standing with Banyana Banyana. The country is saying Banyana Banyana perform better than Bafana Bafana, but they are paid by far. It can't be justified as a question of sponsors and so on, and that there are more sponsors for male soccer than the women one. The Gender Commission has to stand up for equal pay for Banyana Banyana. What has the Commission done also with regards to women in sport to ensure that our women soccer players are appreciated and that such inequality that exists in the soccer fraternity does not continue to exist? Have you made presentation to Parliament, to government, to the Minister of Health, to SAFA? What has been done? Because the country deserves to know.
The better part of what we have done was to subpoena SAFA, was to subpoena the Department of Sport for them to ask exactly how much budget are they setting aside for women's sport, starting from the Department of Sport, but also going to SAFA. And we heard the different constraints that SAFA has had. But I'm just glad to announce maybe to the public that SAFA actually did appear in front of the Gender Commission and made several commitments. One of them was to make sure that they promote Banyana Banyana. Yes, there are still differences in pay, but SAFA has moved from when we met with them in terms of promoting the Banyana Banyana group, but we are also calling for our media centers, even in terms of making sure that the sport that is played by women gets coverage. But what we also met the Department of Sport on was how they were going to contribute to the gender violence 16 days. And we have actually encouraged them to make sure that they promote safety sport inside our communities.
Thank you, Comrade Dulam. Coming to 16 days of activism, do you think the Commission is doing enough work to communicate, to talk to community, society, to talk to the nation on not making 16 days of activism against violence on women and children not being, an activity, an event? Because that should be our lifestyle, a struggle that we wage every day. What kind of advocacy and deliberate programs are you putting in place just to ensure that 16 days is not just 16 days activity commemoration and then after it all these concerted efforts collapse? What are you doing?
So during the year, we have legal clinics where we go to different communities, informal settlements, and to the townships and rural areas. Our offices are in all the provinces, 9 provinces. We go as far as Flagstaff. We go as far as Western Cape, Kukule, Tulanga. We go to Worcester, where there are farms. We even go to Vosloorus, where we have found 12 women who have been burnt by their boyfriends for different reasons that are related to sexism.
That's very sad. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.